Intro music as we wait for the box to say we're actually live. Actually, it says that we're actually live, but I like to give a couple extra seconds. I feel like I have to stand further away from the camera today. I don't know what that is. I have nothing to stand in front of today because I left an adapter somewhere. It fell out. Maybe it's in my car. Whatever the case may be, we are live and we are here for Ask a Traffic Cop. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable at the Toronto Police Service here in Ontario, Canada. I go live on social media answering your traffic and police questions for a full hour. And last day of the week that I'll be in studio. Why? Because we're going to Honda Indy for the weekend. Not me like hanging out watching the races. It's me hanging out talking to you. We have a Toronto Police booth. We set it up. We're going to put some finishing touches on it this afternoon. But we have a booth, and you are welcome to visit us there if you're going to be at Honda Indy all weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 7:30 in the morning open each day. And then it closes 6:30 Friday and Saturday and 5:30 on Sunday. So if you would like to come by, have a look at some classic Toronto Police vehicles. We have a 57 Chevy, an 88 Plymouth, and a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. So any of those three pique your interest. That and a ride truck, which is uber exciting. Come on by and we'll talk to you. But let's get into what we're doing here, which is answering your traffic and police questions. And apparently that's the cue for Get Water. Let me open up a fresh one. I do like my water. What do we got here? We have a couple of things to talk about. We have, of course, questions, and you can get yours answered by doing, one of a number of things. First off, you can use Q&A on Instagram because Instagram matter. There's a couple of folks that are watching us, and you can use the Q&A. I will have a look, and I'll see when you have questions. I'll throw it on screen. We'll answer them. TikTok has a chat, and let's have a look again. Yeah, Q&A still not working in-app. I don't want to ask about what my favorite color is and do I believe in true love, because that's what comes up if I hit the lightning Q&A. It's kind of useless. Let's talk about other ways that you can use the ability to contact, to reach out and ask questions. Okay, we're going to come back to that in 1 sec because this is a global solution. You can get us on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, Twitter doesn't work for Q&A. I know, we can't even see your chat questions. So if you are watching there, or if you're looking for a way to communicate with us, to ask your questions, to ensure that your voice is heard, go to trafficcop.ca. I bought a domain for the service. Just that points over to our Volley app, our Volley app space. You can go there. You can ask questions by way of video, voice message, or text message, and you are going to get heard. Now, it is a free app. It's free to use. It's free for us. It's just free because they're awesome people that have created a great platform that I really think rocks. It's a platform that allows you to ask us questions any time of the day or night. You don't get answers any time of the day or night, but they will stay there in queue and we will get you eventually. Now we have our fabulous friends who are going through the chat and they are putting together questions from the TikTok chat and so we can answer them. And a big good morning to Leo wife, my wife, who's watching on YouTube. Big Jeff Fresh coming in by YouTube. Tracy Bell says, good pun, uber exciting. That's what people should be doing when they're impaired, calling an Uber. Yes, don't drive impaired. Don't drive with drugs or alcohol. That is bad. Not only is it dangerous, but it's illegal, and we will arrest you and charge you, and your life will change forever. Peter Gallagher says, morning traffic guru. Funny thing you say traffic guru. Thank you for saying guru, and I don't know if I fit the bill, but I will try. I looked at, there's a domain name. You can get .guru, and I looked at traffic.guru as an option. It's not cheap. .ca was cheaper. And this is just about making it easy to punch in instead of that big long string of stuff that I was putting on Twitter. So trafficcop.ca just takes you right to that space. Anyway, let's talk about where the Vision Zero enforcement team is today, because that's important. It's the 14th. Yes, all day the 14th. And that makes 15th tomorrow, by the way. Vision Zero enforcement team is a group of officers who focus their efforts every day in a different area of the city. They augment the work being done by the officers in that division, and they make the roads safer through enforcement. I do the education. That's me doing education, answering your traffic and police questions on Ask a Traffic Cop. But they make a difference by issuing tickets, because if we can't get you to change by choice, through education and getting you on side that way, we are going to be left with no other solution but to give you tickets for this behavior, because we want you to be safer. So where are they? They are in 52 Division and 42 Division, and that may mean nothing to you. So Kensington, Chinatown, Bay Street Corridor, Malvern, Agincourt, Milliken, Rouge, Scarborough. That's where they're at. I gotta move I was looking at, this is too low. That's why it was too low. My desk was too low. I got an elevator desk. Look at this. Whee! I think this is good. All right, let's go on to some other stuff. Questions that have been jumping into the chat. Let's see. It's going to be hot this weekend, by the way. hot, hot, hot. And that means I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. Water. I love how they say water in New York. I want a water. Give me a water. Actually, when I was in New York, and I used to go all the time, it was my home away from home. Every September 11th Memorial, I would go and I'd march with the Toronto Police in support of those that died as a result of that tragic event. And if it was a funny thing, if you went and said, "Hello, kind sir, I'd like a bottle of water. How much is that?" They'd say $2. But if I'd say, "Hey, yo, give me a bottle of water," it was $1. Funny how that works. All right. How come cops drive and text? Are they exempt? Well, actually, they are. Texting is not something we would care for everyone to do, but there are times when communication is required, and we are exempt under the Highway Traffic Act for handheld communication offenses. Also, anyone driving police vehicles, fire vehicles, ambulances. Why? Why would that be? Well, some police officers have issued phones from the Toronto Police. They are issued because this is the new way we communicate. We have police radios, which also require authorization under the same section to use while driving a motor vehicle. But this is like our contact. We run plates with this. We can do all sorts of things. We can also use the laptop in the car. Now, if we're doing something that's going to take our focus off driving, we're still responsible for everything we do. If we're getting into a collision because we're texting or because we're talking on the phone, we're as responsible as anybody else. But we are given that exemption to allow us to use life-saving or get information that could be life-saving for either the officer's safety or the public safety. These are things we do. It's not because we're ordering pizza. It's my go-to thing. We're not ordering pizza. We're saving lives here, and we are. We could be getting very important information that's relevant to things going on, and we got to do it. Now, we would prefer police officers or anyone pull over before using their cell phones. In an ideal situation, we would. Moving along. I got 3 mountain bikes on a rack and a hidden license plate. Would I pulled over? Okay. Yes, you could be for obstructing your license plate. You need to relocate, remove your license plate, and put it behind the rack if your rack is actually blocking your plate. If it's at night, you also have to ensure that it's illuminated. Biking is a great hobby. I'm glad you get an exercise, but if you are transporting those, you must make appropriate plans or steps to make sure that your license plate is visible. Can city police pull you over even if OPP patrols it? Yes. Police officers, whether it be municipal or provincial, have coverage for the entire province. So as a police officer in Ontario, I can go and act as a police officer anywhere in the province of Ontario. And now, are we going to pull you over for speeding? We're probably not conducting speed enforcement on somebody else's turf, for lack of a better word. But we could, if we saw you doing something dangerous, pull you over. If we are way out, we don't have sound? Really? You don't have sound. Apparently, we're having an issue with audio. Let me see. Do we still have audio? Because apparently that was an issue for somebody. I unplugged and replugged. Can anyone listening confirm that you, Instagram, have sound? Because we are concerned about you. Thanks, Mike. My brother Mike is watching. By the way, if you Google my name, you might see Mike's face, because Google has determined that we are in fact the same person. It's been okay, so somebody was just messing with me, but it's back and working good. Okay, glad. Let's see what's going on here. So yeah, OPP. If we were outside, let's say we're 2 or 3 jurisdictions over, we wouldn't write the ticket ourselves because that would force you to come to Toronto for court. If we were just using a neighboring community, we could and actually just use a Toronto ticket. The tickets are pretty much the same. It just says the jurisdiction pre-printed, and yeah, sends it to a courthouse for us. What do we have here? Is it legal to back onto a roadway? However, it's illegal to back into the flow of traffic. Oh, sorry, that's an answer, it looks like. The question is, so I grew up thinking that it was illegal to back out onto a main street. So what I would always do is back into the driveway. And as a police officer, we're actually trained to always, assuming it's possible, back into a parking spot. Why? Why would that be a good idea? Well, it's all about planning. Fantastic thing, and I think this is fantastic in all aspects. So a business concept, I may have mentioned this on the show before, but they say that you make money on the buy, not the sell. Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? You buy it, then you sell it. And when you sell it, that's when you make money. Well, you only make money if you actually have something increase in value. So you make money when you buy it. So I convert that to driving. How do I make money on the buy? Well, it's called planning. if you plan ahead, then you're set up for success. So we back into parking spots so that in an emergent situation when we got to go, we just hit the gas and go. We have to think about all the delays and making sure it's safe, other than what you normally do. But backing up is far more involved than driving forward out of a spot. So if you're able to back into a driveway from a major street, it's far better to do that safely when time is not an issue than having to back into it during rush hour, for instance. All right, moving along. So it's not illegal. It's just less safe, which means it needs to be done with more care. Boom, boom, boom. Is it illegal to do an acceleration but not going over the speed limit? We get this question all the time. The question is, can I hammer that gas and go like a bat out of hell, into traffic and stop accelerating right at that speed mark? Technically, you're not speeding, right? But the driving behavior could be construed as a number of things. Was it racing, which means it would be stunt driving? Is it safe? Were people diving out of the way, anticipating being run over? So your behavior could have impact, even if you don't make impact. So the answer is it depends. Oh, got confirmation that YouTube. So everywhere audio is good, and whoever was telling me I had audio issues, well, that wasn't very friendly. And maybe your volume was down. Maybe you were on mute. Not into motorcycles. Sorry if I enter a draw and win. Can I get cash equivalent? Okay. Thank you for bringing up the whole raffle thing, because I hadn't even mentioned it yet. So it points to you. Maybe if you buy a ticket, you might win something. Well, he's not into motorcycles, but there is a motorcycle raffle. HarleyRaffle.ca allows you to buy tickets to support, well, Special Olympics Ontario, the most magical charity event and group on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. This money goes to fund expensive things. Sports are not cheap, so we raise money or help them raise money. They're raffling off a brand new Harley Davidson Street Glide, which is a magical motorcycle. I would happily win that. Tickets are 20 for 1, 3 for 50, and you do have to take the bike, but you could easily sell the bike. Actually, I shouldn't say that. You need to find out. I need to find out for you if you can take a cash equivalent. But the bike is purchased already, so I think that you have to take the bike and then you can sell it. I know someone who might buy it. His name might be Sean. If you win the bike, talk to me. We might have to buy a motorcycle from you. All right, let's move on. Wait, my wife is watching. Sean is not buying a yeah. My wife doesn't want me to buy another motorcycle. Okay, maybe one day, but we'll talk. You and we talk. Maybe we'll convince her together that I need a new motorcycle. Could a 15-year-old without a license move a car out of the garage to the driveway? Okay. So here's the deal. You're not licensed. You're not insured, and anything that happens to you during that little movement, although we couldn't charge you under the Highway Traffic Act for driving without a license because you're not on the highway, you'd be responsible for it. So I don't suggest it. I know that when I was a kid, that happened all the time, but mistakes happen. Cars don't go into park. Inexperienced operators make boo-boos and then end up causing major issues for the car owner and for themselves, because you can still be charged for everything else that happens. If you end up causing a collision on the street because you made a little error in judgment, pedal confusion maybe, yeah, you could hurt somebody and you'd not be insured. You're a non-licensed driver. Causes a lot of issues. I would avoid doing that. Okay. Peter Gallagher wants to know, what's the ticket for someone driving the speed limit where the weather conditions are not safe for those speed? So simply driving the speed limit when you shouldn't be, well, there's no ticket for that. If you do end up losing control and causing a collision, then careless driving would likely be the most appropriate, because you weren't driving with due care and attention, which means you were driving at a speed that was unsafe for the road conditions. And you'd be responsible for the collision, even if you weren't speeding. I think that's the best. I don't think there's another answer for that. But if there's another answer and you're a copper watching and you think there's a better idea, let me know. The law is very subjective. It's observations. It's trying to play Tetris and figure out which piece fits, because it's not all cut and dry in every situation. Very often we have a bunch of laws that clearly specify one thing and a bunch of laws that don't, and you have to find the gray area to see what fits. And it usually fits. There's usually a blanket or something and then the courts do the same thing. When you plead guilty to a lesser and included offense, it's not because you did exactly that, but it fits enough that we can use that as an alternative. So things to think about. All right. What is this? Can police pull over and write someone a ticket if they're out of their jurisdiction? We just talked about that. Yes, they can. We can also pull them over, and if we were so far out of our jurisdiction that would be inappropriate to write a ticket from Toronto, let's say in Oshawa, Is there a border in between? No, Oshawa might even work. But you would call a local police officer and say, I witnessed this. You write the ticket. I'll be your witness. So that works too. At the end of the day, don't break the law. You don't have to worry about any of this stuff. But generally speaking, if we're out of our jurisdiction, we're not doing traffic enforcement. We would only be pulling someone over for something egregious. Stunt driving, maybe. Maybe we do it for, well, obviously for impaired operation, anything criminal, anything severely dangerous. Anyone endangering life is, you got to know you're on the radar. I don't mean like moving radar. I mean our radar, as we're interested. We're interested in protecting the community from people who choose to make it more unsafe. Okay. Do you get a fine if a pet is on the driver's lap and looking out the window? So that's called careless driving because you are unable to properly control your vehicle. You could also get a lesser charge for drive while crowded. Both would fit. All depends on the observations of the officer. What's the rundown on Underglow? So Underglow doesn't have a specific charge. It's that whole concept of does it fit here, does it fit there, what laws deal with it. So Underglow that's installed correctly really doesn't affect anything other than making the ground beneath the vehicle glow. If it's not blinking, flashing to the music, it's not intermittent, it's not in a restricted color, really not a big deal. However, it is a big deal when it's installed poorly in such a way that the bulbs are visible, and it happens more often than you'd think. The bulbs are visible, and now the light is being projected directly forward. That is violating headlight or lighting to the front laws that say you can't project anything other than white or yellow to the front. You can also not project anything other than yellow or red to the rear, save and except for a license plate light, which must be white. Now, if you're talking about side to side, same thing. So if you install it correctly, it's not really an issue. Reflected light isn't covered under the HTA, not that I'm aware of. So if it's bouncing off the road, it's bouncing off the road. It's not being illuminated directly from your vehicle. All right. Elusive says, "G'day." Well, g'day to you too. I miss my opportunities to say g'day and g'day, mate. And I spent time in Australia, and when I did that, I tend to kick into different accents depending on where I am. So if I'm in New York, I start to sound like I'm from New York. If I'm in Australia, then I start to bounce into a little melodic tone, and I get to be more Australian. And it's not me trying to make fun. It's just what it is. I hear it, and I start mimicking it. It's just what it is. So g'day to you too. Let's see here. If the sign is gone for whatever reason, can I still get a parking ticket? She's coming. The parking guru is coming. Someone called me the traffic guru earlier, and I was like, I was just talking about that with my wife. We were looking for domain names before I got trafficcop.ca, and the question was, does traffic.guru work? And I didn't even know there was a .guru domain name. I think that's the coolest thing ever. Okay. Aaron is joining. 1 second. I'll put the mic on for you. Which mic are you using?
This one.
That one. Okay, mic is live. Hello, Erin. Erin is a parking
everyone.
enforcement officer. She's a media relations officer for the parking enforcement unit, which happens to fit under the same team. We have the same boss. So we often do this where we join each other on lives and talk about stuff. Yeah.
What was the question? If there was a no parking sign, do I still get a ticket?
If the sign is missing, if there's supposed to be a no parking sign but no sign is present, can I still be ticketed for no parking?
So if there is no signage, we do not enforce whatever the bylaw should be there, but the 3-hour bylaw, which is the city bylaw, would still be in effect. So say there's construction going on in your street and it's a no parking zone regularly, the signs have been taken down for said construction, then the 3-hour bylaw comes in lieu of that. So that, again, that's only enforced upon complaint. So it's possible you could get a ticket, but again, it's based on the 3-hour bylaw, so it wouldn't be for no parking.
So you just can't hang out there all the time. Okay. So the 3-hour bylaw is everywhere. Signs specify otherwise, and parking enforcement officers, like police officers, check things before they actually write tickets. If I'm doing speed enforcement, I want to make sure that the speed signs are clearly visible. If I'm doing enforcement of a sign that says no turns, I make sure that the sign is there before I go to enforce it, because I look awfully silly in court when I try and say that I wrote the ticket based on the sign being there and it's not there.
Yep. It happens.
So, Q says hello. I see her in the chat on Twitch saying hello to Aaron.
Hello. Sorry, I'm gonna
and she's giving you tidbits of information. She says, tell Aaron to move away from the microphone. Her plosives are very loud. Plosives are when you pop into the microphone. Oh. So if you angle it so you're speaking over the mic, you'll find it better. So you tilt it so it's up like this, so you're speaking over it as opposed to right into it. Stand by.
Oh. There we go. Okay. Is that better?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's okay. If not, I might have to loosen the screws in that to make it more flexible. All right. Question 4. Is there leniency when a G2 driver goes past 12 a.m. restriction if he's driving home from work? A G2 driver can drive 24 hours a day if they're alone or accompanied by people who are over the age of 19 or immediate family members. So there is leniency. There's exceptions. The rule is the number of people under the age of, is it 19 or under the age of 19? You have to look this up. But it changes in the first 6 months and the second 6 months of their driving. Yeah. Did I say that right? Am I correct? Did I make that up and say, is that G class? Did I make that up? Hang on a second. I might be wrong. Maybe that's G. Hang on a second. I might be making a boo-boo. G2 license restrictions. Waiting for my, which machine am I using? Hang on a second. Now I've said it and I've confused myself sufficiently. G2. I try not to. Yeah, first 6 months after receiving a G2 license, you're allowed to carry only one passenger aged 19 or under. After 6 months with your G2, and until you obtain your G license or turn 20, you're allowed to carry up to 3 passengers aged 19 or under. So it's 19 and under. First 6 months, one person. After 6 months, or when you turn 20, you're able to carry 3 passengers 19 or under. But the exemption covers immediate family or people over 19. Cool. I'm glad we had this conversation. I always like the opportunity to double check and confirm and get those little tidbits. Like I keep forgetting that 20-year-old caveat, that if you're 20, then you can have more. Yeah. All right, let's move on to stuff and things that are important to you. Sean Shapiro, what are the laws about lockpicking? Well, oddly enough, in Ontario, and I can't speak for the entire country or thing, I'm not aware of any regulatory things in relation to lockpicking. So I've learned how to lockpick. I think it's interesting. I bought lockpicks. They're not prohibited unless you're using them as break and enter tools. So if you're learning how to lockpick, there's white hat locking and hacking conventions and things like this, and there's competitions for lockpicking. It's cool. I like learning how things work. So yeah, that's a thing. It's not illegal. Now, if you walk around with lockpicks and you're stopped while lurking around people's houses, you're probably going to be stopped and charged for possession of break and enter tools, because that's a thing. But if you are breaking into your own house because you're the legitimate owner and you just need to get in, well, what's the difference between you being a locksmith or not? It really isn't. Locksmithing is unless things have changed, a self-regulated industry. All right, let's move on. Can you drink non-alcoholic beer while driving? What would the cop do when they realized? So if you were driving around with something, and I don't drink non-alcoholic beer, does it say beer on it?
It does.
It does say beer?
But it does say non-alcoholic or 0% on the cans as well.
So it's not regulated. We can pull you over because we think you have beer. We would say, hey, it's non-alcoholic beer. You might find yourself blowing roadside or under MAS because we might think that maybe somebody did something to, there has to be more than just, I saw you with a can in your hand. Generally speaking, it's driving behavior. But the thing is, in Canada, since 2018, there's something called MAS, mandatory alcohol screening. So we no longer even need to confirm that you have alcohol or have a belief that you have alcohol in your system. We can just ask every fifth person or every person that we stop to provide a roadside screening device test, which would then tell us how much alcohol you have in your system. So, but let's forget all the extra that I just added to that. That wasn't really part of your question. The answer is, if you have no alcohol in your system and the beverage that you're drinking is non-alcoholic and just happens to be called beer, it's non-alcoholic and you're okay. Yeah, I really overly complicated that whole situation. Having bad footwear, heels, sandals, etc. contribute to collision charges. Charges, no. Does it contribute to the investigation? Like, driver was driving with footwear that might have become lodged behind it could become part of the report, but charges wouldn't be laid because you wore high heels or flats or flip-flops or Crocs or work boots. It's a factor, but that's not there's no charge for that. It's not illegal. Obviously, if you're driving, here's one thing. A lot of this stuff is common sense. If you're in a vehicle and you can't drive safely, you put the gas down and you push the brakes at the same time because you're wearing a big old winter boot, well, that's obviously a problem. And you as a driver who's making responsible decisions should say, this doesn't work. So you should do what my buddy Rob does. He has winter boots in his car at all times, and he has sneakers in his car at all times in the winter. He obviously doesn't transport winter boots in the middle of summer. but he does have flip-flops in his car. So he has driving shoes and he has non-driving shoes. So what's a reason you might want to have something other than flip-flops when you're driving? Because flip-flops are great for walking around. Although if you listen to some spy movies, they'll tell you that you should never wear anything you can't run in. And I think that's actually a pretty good idea, except I'm not running anywhere. I'm holding my ground and I'm not running. Don't make me run because it'll hurt. Yeah. The deal is that he changes into sneakers for driving because in the event of a collision, and I think this is great planning, in the event of a collision, you might be walking through broken glass. You might be walking through fire. You might be walking through things you may not be prepared to in flip-flops that may not even be on your feet. So picture yourself after a collision having to walk on, gassy, broken, hot surface. It's just, there's a reason he plans ahead, and he is the Uber planner. And I don't mean Uber by Uber. I mean Uber like he's really a planner. All right.
I see a question here that I'm like, I think it's funny, but
okay.
Do people who ride bikes in traffic need to be able to ride the speed limit?
Say that again.
Do people who ride bikes like on the road in traffic, do they need to be able to ride the speed limit?
So actually, it's funny you should say that. If you are riding a bicycle on the road, there's this discussion about, am I entitled to my own lane? Yes, presuming you can maintain the flow of traffic. So if you cannot maintain the flow of traffic, which we also talk about being legal speed, then you should be to the right of the lane. So if it's a 2-lane road only, one in either direction, stay to the right, and drivers must give you 1 meter space to get around you. So that's a 1 meter rule. But you don't have to go the speed limit. The speed limit is the maximum somebody can go. But as a cyclist, you stay to the right. If you were in a situation where you can travel 20 kilometers an hour, I don't know, how fast do you go as a cyclist? Do you have a speedometer, Aaron?
Do I have a speedometer on my bike?
Yeah.
No. But if I turn my Strava app on, it tells me like the highest speed that I went. And usually it's going downhill at some point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if you don't know does it tell you what your average is? Do you tend to go like with speed of traffic?
Yeah.
In Toronto?
No, well, sometimes, depending, like sometimes it's such gridlock that I am going past the traffic, especially if I'm riding in a bike lane. But I tend to ride pretty, I wouldn't say fast, but I'd say at least 15, 20 kilometers,
okay,
30 kilometers.
If you're 15, 20, and I have no concept of speed when it comes to cyclists and what is sustainable as a cyclist. But if you talk about 15 to 20 kilometers average, or e-bikes that tend to do...
They can go fast.
They can do 32 kilometers an hour legally maximum. So let's say traffic's doing 30, they're doing 30. Could they have the whole lane? Absolutely, they could. If traffic is doing 40 and they're doing 32, they got to stay to the right-hand side. And I'm only using e-bikes as the example because I know what their maximum legal speed is. And that's it. All right. Hope that answers your question. And if it doesn't, ask me again in a different way. In a construction zone, they forgot to change the speed signs. Original speed allowed. If the construction zones, I'm combining words. If construction signs in a construction zone are not white, they are not regulated. They are asking you to slow down for their safety. And good neighbor rules say you do. Can I give you a ticket for not doing the 30 kilometers an hour that the orange sign says? No, it's not a regulated speed sign. If you were to go above the speed limit in a construction zone with workers present, would you get doubled fines? Would you get increased things? Yeah, potentially. I say potentially because it depends on signage, depends on what they're doing. Question from Duke Nukem. Did the fella from the other day ever see my messages about pets? I have no idea. Chances are no, because it was actually recorded the year before. It was July 13th. 2021 that we recorded it. It was funny. I was looking for content to put up because I didn't get a chance to finish editing the episode I had been working on of the current TPS traffic jam. So I put up an episode from Ask a Traffic Cop, the old way when we did 5 guests in 5 days. Like it was panic work, lots. But on the 13th of July, 1 year to the day ago, we put up the same episode that we had played, and it was OSPCA, and that's exactly the topic that I wanted to cover because of the heat coming this weekend. I want to protect animals. I want to make sure people are aware of it. So he wasn't. I don't think he was watching, but if he was, he might have seen it. All right, moving on. We got. Okay. Why are drivers allowed to drive without functioning brake lights? They're not. You need to have functioning brake lights on a motor vehicle. It's a requirement under the Highway Traffic Act. You have to have 2 headlights functioning and 1 brake light. So if you had 1 brake light that was failing or had failed, or 2 on the grill but 1 on the rear window, that would still be legal. Get them fixed though. Get a friend, get a spouse, get a neighbor, get people you like, you don't like. Get people. Just ask someone to tell you. Confirm. Back up against a wall, like with enough room that you can see the reflection. Check your brake lights. Make sure they're working. I used to take a stick and push my brake down so I could walk around and do a circle check. And I had a routine that I did on a regular basis. I haven't done that recently. I just use the wall as a reflector. But I want to make sure all my lights are working. And most modern vehicles will tell you if a light is not working. Mercedes is a big one where it gives a beacon to say the light, and sometimes you can even know which light is not working, which is really cool. Okay. Can I use your phone on a red light? My phone, I'm not lending you. I'm sorry. I'm really personal about my phone, but your phone, no. Red lights are not permitted. So as a driver, you cannot use a phone even when stopped at a red light. The only place you can use your phone legally is when you're pulled over into a legal parking spot and parked. So if you can legally park there, you can use it. If you pull into a no stopping zone, you cannot legally use it. You'd be eligible for a no stopping ticket and a use handheld communication device. Many people don't know that. So that's why I tell you these things. So I want to save you $615, 3 demerit points, and a 3-day suspension on conviction because I care about a lot of things. Okay, what are the consequences for going 180 kilometers an hour? Well, I can tell you that regardless of what the speed limit is, 180 kilometers an hour is over 150 kilometers an hour, which instantly makes it stunt driving. So you'd be charged for speeding and stunt driving. You could be charged under criminal dangerous driving depending on what the speed limit is. So if that was in a 40 kilometer an hour zone, that's dangerous driving. Criminal charges would be laid. But I'd lay all the other ones too, probably. What else? So you're going to get a 30-day license suspension, instantly roadside. You're going to get a 14-day vehicle impound, which you get to pay for both the tow and the storage for the vehicle while it's inside. Additionally, what else additionally? Then when you get to court, there's consequences. Like you can get suspended from 1 to 3 years on your first conviction. I think you can get up to 6 months in jail. Another thing I need to look up to confirm because they all start to blend together after a while. In any case, don't be an idiot and don't do 180 kilometers an hour. If you want to go fast, take up racing. Go to Indy, become a driver. Take up racing of any kind. My buddy Brian Max did an episode with me, which is going to come out in 2 episodes for TPS Traffic Jam. I'm getting so good at this. We're actually getting them in the can, ready to go. And I think I finished editing that one. In any case, he talks about his getting into his career of racing, and it is. It's a really cool story, but there's so many different ways. It's not as expensive as you might think, and there's opportunities to take your vehicle to the track. And even with your personal vehicle, go onto a track and feel what it feels like to go faster legally. And there's all sorts of things. So I don't want to tell you too much. I mean, I do want to tell you that don't drive that fast because you're an idiot if you do it, because it's unsafe. And every 5 kilometers over the posted speed limit statistically says you double your chances, quadruple or double. It's either quadruple or double. And I was just talking about this and now I'm mixed up. Quadruple or double your chance of collision, period. And of course, any collision that occurs at that speed is going to be just destructive beyond words. There's no fender bender at 180. That's catastrophic injuries and destruction. All right, moving along because I don't want to sit here and harp about speeding. It's wrong. Don't do it. That's it. Okay, how do you determine if someone is driving without the will to live? Sometimes I think I should reread these questions. The will to live is not something that we are able to monitor while following behind someone. I think there's a lot of people who would describe their lives that way because they're depressed or unhappy or things going on, or just hate traffic. So I don't know what to tell you there. But moving along. Why are street bikes allowed to be loud but cars aren't? Well, they're not. Street bikes are absolutely not allowed to be loud. I like how that sounds. We enforce the Highway Traffic Act for unnecessary noise violations for both motorcycles and any vehicle on the road. In addition to that, motorcycles in the city of Toronto have a specific bylaw that we use to lay a charge. I think it's $500 for the fine for having a street bike that at idle creates more than 92 decibels of noise at the rear pipe at idle. So there's even more consequence for riders on motorcycles. When can you drive a dirt bike in your neighborhood? When your neighborhood is not a road in Ontario, because I couldn't tell you where you're legally allowed to do it. It's trails only, from what I understand. Dirt bikes can never be driven on a Highway Traffic Act covered road, which means any road in Ontario is covered by the Highway Traffic Act, unless it's private property. Doorknob Muncher says, "Hi, Sean. Hello, how you doing? Hey, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service, and I go live on the internet answering your traffic and police questions for this little thing we call Ask a Traffic Cop. If you've got questions, we generally have answers. If you want to make sure your questions are answered, check out trafficcop.ca. That takes you directly to our Volley app invitation page where you can join a secret squirrel group. No, it's just a really cool place. It's a group, and there's messages here. Oh, there's a question here. Can you make a right-hand turn on a red from the middle lane? Question being asked, and I will answer the question. So let me hit record so I can record it on Volley and distribute it here. The answer to that is that if the middle lane is a straight through lane, then no, you may not. If it is a right turn enabled lane, then you could, but you'd have to turn into the appropriate lane. So I hope that answers your question. If that doesn't make sense, then ask me again because we'll have a further dive into it. Now, that message just went directly to that person's Volley account in the group. They get notified that I answered the question. So even if you are not staying in the room to see it live on Ask a Traffic Cop, you can still get your answer. So that's very cool. Trafficcop.ca will take you to it. It's free to use. It's just awesome. Hey, Sean, is it illegal to ride a scooter on the road? Now, when you say ride a scooter, we have to define what a scooter is. Are you talking about an electric e-scooter, e-kick scooter? Are you talking about an e-bike that looks like a scooter? Are you talking about a gas-powered motorcycle that is configured as a scooter where you put your feet and your knees together, because like a Vespa? So it depends, and we'll just cover all of them because we can. So an e-kick scooter is the one that has two tiny wheels and a flat skateboardy kind of surface in between them, a handlebar and a stem that allows you to control it, and is propelled by a motor. The rules are for that in the city of Toronto, because it depends on where you are. There is a provincial pilot that's in place that allows you to ride an e-kick scooter in the province as long as it conforms to the standards. The standards say it can go no more than 24 kilometers an hour on a flat level surface. And if you have that, you can ride it in places that allow it. 24 kilometers an hour, maximum speed. It allows it. So Mississauga allows them. Toronto does not. You cannot ride them on any city street, sidewalk, or park or bicycle path, like nowhere except private property. If you have put more than a 500-watt motor or you attach a seat to it, that instantly becomes a motorcycle and is subject to all rules of motorcycling. You need a license for a motorcycle. You need to have a ownership and license plate, and you must have insurance. Failure to have that insurance would see you with fines from $5,000 to $25,000, up to 6 months in jail. Yeah. Things people don't realize when they buy these things and just use them willy-nilly. Willy-nilly. Okay. If you are riding a scooter-looking e-bike, legal in Toronto, as long as you're using it, as long as it conforms. The rules for an e-bike are that it must have functioning pedals, it must have a motor that will not allow you to travel more than 32 kilometers an hour on a flat surface. You have to wear a helmet. You have to, what else do you have to do? Helmet, no more than 500-watt motor, which is the same for both e-kick scooter and bicycle. But yeah, those can operate places. They cannot be on cycle tracks because they're a scooter. They're not a pedelec. They have different restrictions. So no cycle tracks, but they can use cycle lanes and sharrows, and they can't be on the sidewalk. I think I covered all of those. There might be a couple more. There's things about maintenance and exposed battery leads and all sorts of other things. You can really deep dive into that. And then if you're talking about a scooter, that's a motorcycle. Like an actual Vespa is a motorcycle, low-power motorcycle, depending on displacement, but effectively it's a motorcycle. All rules of the road apply. And all licenses, ownership, and insurance, same thing. All right, let's get into some other stuff. Austinator says, hey, buddy, what's going on? Actually, I said, what's going on? He just said, hey, buddy. What is this? Oh, here's a parking question.
What?
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 Tell me. Is it illegal to park facing traffic on the left in a two-way street? So this is parking against the flow of traffic?
So like left wheels to curb. Yes, that is legal. And except there is an exemption if you have an accessible permit. So if you have one of those permits, you can park left wheels to curb. Say you're the driver and you have, mobility issues and you need to get out on that side of the street.
Get out.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Yeah, learn something new every day.
Well, at first I had the question because I thought you said it was illegal. Or sorry, I thought you said it was legal to do left. I misheard you.
Sorry, it's illegal, but there's an exemption for people with an accessible permit.
Okay.
But for anyone else who doesn't have that, it's illegal.
I gotta say
you
though,
can get a ticket.
It's gotta be dangerous. Like nobody's
is.
expecting you to drive contraflow into oncoming traffic to now get onto that side of the road.
Yeah.
Because on a two-way road, maybe it's easy, but if you're in a 6-lane, you're on Yonge
Yeah.
Street, four lanes total.
And honestly, I rarely see that. Actually, like even people with accessible permits, it's very rare I come across a car parked like that. But yeah, you know who parks like that? It's usually delivery drivers that I have
Interesting.
seen downtown.
Who probably don't have the exemption, so they're breaking the law.
No. So they're doing it because it's convenient.
I must thank you because I've learned something that's totally outside of my wheelhouse, and I just don't think I ever knew that. And if I did, I totally forgot about it to the point where I credited you for endowing me with this new knowledge. So thank you very much. Conveyance of knowledge is awesome. That's what I mean. I'm glad that I get so much great feedback. So many people reach out and say, "I love what you do because I have fun with it, or I've learned so much, or I'm a safe driver because of what I've learned here, or I've got my test." But whatever the case may be, I love the feedback. I really do appreciate it. I don't get to read everybody's messages, but I do appreciate it. I love it when I get to learn stuff because someone asks me a question that's totally outside of my wheelhouse and I have to look it up. And now I'm like, wow, I've never looked at this before. And now I know something new. So we're all learning every day. It's awesome. If you are... What is this one? If you're facing a red light with an advanced green arrow to make a right turn, do you have to come to a stop before making the right, or can you continuously go through and make a right turn? Okay, advanced green arrows are to the left generally, but if you do have the rare occasion where you show up and it has a right advanced turn, well, if it's a green light, it's a green light. You don't have to stop. If it's a advanced left turn for left turn traffic only, and it's a red light for you, then obviously you have to stop. You have to ensure that it's safe to proceed before doing so. You have to yield to traffic. There's so many things. But if it's truly a green right turn, that's what you said, facing a red light with an advanced green arrow to make a right turn. That's the situation, very specifically what you wrote. Allows you to make that right turn without stopping because you have that advanced green right turn. Very rare. I don't see that very often. I have seen them, but very rare. Have you seen it, Erin, anywhere in the city of Toronto where there's an advanced right turn?
Yes, actually, right at on my, well, I don't want to tell people where I live, but it's on the way home where I live, right at Windermere and Lakeshore, actually. So it's usually a red for people, and then you can, advance right.
Cool.
Onto Windermere from Lakeshore.
Michael wants to know, is there any way to hear police radio in Ontario? Depending on the police service, they may or may not have encrypted bands. I used to listen on a, what's it called, a repeater radio or a scanner to Toronto Police. I used to do it all the time. And then they went fully encrypted and I couldn't listen to it. I think OPP is open band, so there's certain things you can listen to. It's far less exciting these days because everything is pretty much computer transmitted. We just don't use the radio the same way as we used to. But it's certainly, you could probably find a directory for ham radio operators, or if you just Google it, you should be able to find the channels that are open. Fire, I think, has some channels that are open. Yeah. And Michael has a follow-up question. I'm going to knock this one out so we get him out of the way, and then we're going to move on to some other questioners. What's the charge of driving as a G1 without a G beside the G1? And this is one of my favorite questions, so that's why I was so happy to address it, because it's important. If you are driving a motor vehicle as a G-class, as a G1 driver, you're a G1 learner's permit possessor. That means that you can drive under the direct supervision of a qualified G driver. That means that person must have 4 years experience. They must have a G-class license. Now, their 4 years experience starts when they get their G2, and any suspension in between that time doesn't count, so they should be looking for 4 dots arranged vertically by their mini-me picture in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, of their license, I should say. They must be in the passenger seat, front passenger seat beside you. They must have a BAC, a blood alcohol content, at under 0.05, because if they are 0.05 or above, they're not legally able to operate a motor vehicle themselves, so they can't supervise you doing it. So you can't be a designated driver as a learner's permit holder. And I think that's it. And nobody else can be on the front seat. So you can't have anybody sitting between you. You can't stuff people. If you're in a pickup truck, nobody else can sit on you if it's a single row seat. I think that covers it for G1 driving. If you drive, so consequences if you don't, because we already talked about what the requirements are. If you drive alone or with someone who is not qualified, or the person who has the license is lying down in the back seat, for instance, you would be charged with drive G1 unaccompanied. That means you would have a 30-day suspension on conviction for your first conviction, a 90-day for your second, and you'd be kicked out of the licensing program after the third. That means any money or time that you've contributed to becoming a G2 driver, like you have to wait 8 months if you took a course, 12 months if you didn't, you'd start ground zero. You start with nothing. So that's one thing. Two, you're not insured. So if you become involved in a collision, the vehicle's not being repaired. The liability coverage will probably still cover what happened. That's my understanding. But your vehicle would not be covered. So if it's mom and dad's and you took it with their consent or without, it wouldn't cover. Well, so actually there's a caveat there. If you took it with their consent, they would be charged. They'd be charged for permitting an unlicensed person to drive that vehicle, or a person that has a condition and against their condition. If they did lend it, didn't lend it to you, and you took it without their permission, there's a charge under the criminal code for take vehicle without consent, and you'd be charged criminally now. And then the insurance might be better to them, right? Because you stole the car. So it's really bad for you, though. So don't do it. But I appreciate the question. Too often, people, especially during the pandemic, when in the heat of everything, when everything was locked down and they couldn't get their driving tests, people were like, "I gotta go. I'm gonna just do it," and they did it. And then we had one day, I think, 7 people charged for G1 on the company in the same day. There's just no excuse. You're not an experienced driver, even if you think you are, and don't do it. Okay. Covered that. If driving in the far right lane on a 3-lane highway is illegal to pass slower traffic, what? If driving in the far right lane on a 3-lane highway, is it illegal to pass slower traffic in the middle? Okay, passing is often misunderstood. Passing, when they say don't pass on right, is usually talking about passing on right off road onto a shoulder. It is not illegal to overtake a vehicle if you are traveling faster than they are. And you can do so safely. So if we're 3 cars, lane 1, 2, 3, and we're all traveling at 60, and you get to you do 65 because the speed limit's 70, and you overtake the guy in the left lane who's doing 60, so be it. That's not against the law. If you're behind the guy doing 60, you make a jackrabbit quick lane change to the right, hammer that gas down, swerve around. That's an unsafe movement. It's an unsafe lane change combined with rapid. There's a whole bunch of other things. That's different. Just accelerating beyond the speed of the person to the left of you is not illegal. And what else can I tell you about that? Passing does not give you the permission to exceed the speed limit. You cannot go beyond the speed limit in order to pass somebody. Treadza says, other G1 restrictions, 0 BAC for G1 driver. Yes, there are other restrictions, and that looks like it's all correct. 0 BAC for G1 driver, no driving between 12 and 5 a.m. Yes, that's correct. And no driving on any highway with a speed limit over 80 kilometers an hour unless they're accompanied by a licensed driving instructor. Absolutely correct. One thing to add on, there are some highways that are specifically listed in the HTA that are 80 or higher, and they are the only routes in and out of certain areas. So if you have to go home and you have to go on an 80 zone, you are able to go on those specifically exempted roads. So just other things to know. Know the roads you go, because it's important to know that you are allowed in certain situations. Also, licensed driving instructor means not mom and dad who has a license. It means someone who is a professional driving instructor, part of a driving program. But thank you very much for adding that to the conversation, because I was talking about stuff other than that, and you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So my laundry list of things to talk about on my favorite charge is growing. I need to cover that all the time. Does your front plate need to be mounted, or can it be displayed on your dash? Sorry, big dramatic pause.
Brain fart?
No, yeah. I heard you like gasp for a second, like you were about to say something. So I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just doing that when I'm thinking, I guess.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, does Aaron want to talk? I don't know.
Someone did have a parking question, but I don't even know if they're still in the chat, and I did have to look it up to find the answer.
Okay, we'll hit that in 1 second. So to answer your question is, does your license plate need to be fronted on the front of your? It has to be mounted on the front of your motor vehicle in a conspicuous place, and front of the motor vehicle really does mean your front bumper, front grille, front of the car, not front windshield, which is about 40%, 60%, depending on the design of your vehicle, into the vehicle, and behind glass, which would be against the law on its own because you cannot obscure the license plate in any way. Oddly enough, glass is an obstruction. You can't put a plastic license plate cover on it. You certainly can't put it behind the glass window inside your vehicle. So aside from the fact that it becomes a shuriken, a ninja star inside of your vehicle upon collision, it could be very, very dangerous. It could be, launched into your skull at speed. Not a good look. But it's $110 for failure to display. It's not displayed in accordance with the Highway Traffic Act's regulations that say front of vehicle in a conspicuous place. If you really don't want to drill holes in your bumper because somebody says that that's a problem, or it doesn't look good on your Lambo, yeah, put it in a tow hook adapter. I think that's the best excuse. It doesn't have to be centered in your plate. Many manufacturers offset the license plate location classic cars often have it to the right-hand side, and a tow hook adapter would certainly meet the requirements. I just got a notification from Chase who asks, hang on a second. I think this is his voice. Let me just check the transcript. What do we got here? Oh, hang on a second. Let's have a look at this. This is audio loaded.
How are parked cars ticketed in the winter when the wipers are up? Like, where do you put it?
That's a great question, and it's obviously not for me.
It's for a parking ticket. So yeah, we wear winter gear, gloves, and I have no issue. Actually, if I'm checking to see if you've paid for parking, I have to, wipe some snow off your windshield. And yeah, I just wipe snow off the windshield wiper enough to just put it on your
But he's
windshield.
saying many people put their windshield wipers in the up position.
Oh.
So where do you put them then?
Well, if that happens, then
You put the windshield wiper down?
Yeah, so if it's snowing and no, I don't put the windshield wiper down. I leave it up for the whatever. But if it's snowing, it's usually wet, and when the tickets are wet, they
stick.
They stick. So yeah, like people or parking officers, we joke and we say like, oh, the lick and stick, because when it's raining, we just stick it on the windshield.
I'm going to let actually maybe you can go into the Q&A after and answer this directly to him because
Oh, is that on volley?
It's on volley, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it would be more appropriate for you to say lick and stick and tell it in the context that you did. Unfortunately, I don't have an audio out. I could do that. I could actually bring an audio output and put it directly into volley so we can have you speak to volley. But you have your own volley account because you're in the group.
Yes.
So if you're going to trafficcop.ca and you happen to be in our group, Aaron's also in our group, so you can ask parking questions there too. I guess I should create a parking board and a Toronto board and have both coverages so everyone can have their stuff.
Someone asked in the chat, what if the windshield wipers are on? Where do you put the ticket then? Honestly, if it's gonna be like a game like that, then I'll just surf it as a drive away and drive off. You'll get it in the mail.
That is actually that's a great way to do it. That way you ensure that it's being delivered appropriately.
And this happens all the time. Like I'll put it on the windshield and say they're sitting in the car and it's a beautiful sunny day and they put the windshield wipers on and it goes flying into the street. Doesn't matter. The ticket was still served. You're still going to get that eventually.
Yeah,
down the line,
will be served
in the mail.
and I was thinking, and I forgot what I was thinking. What was I thinking? It was something about no, I can't remember. It was so wonderful.
Sorry,
too.
I cut you
That's
off.
okay. I'll survive. What do we have here? Okay. Oh, here's a great one. Are you getting paid to do this? Yes. I'm a police officer on duty, and as a media relations officer, as a traffic educator, as a member of the cadre here at Traffic Safety Programs, this is something I do for an hour a day, and I do get paid for it because I'm on duty. Now I don't get paid when I answer your questions when I'm at home with my kids or I answer questions all the time because I'm mildly addicted to TikTok and helping people. So I do. When I see tons of questions come in or when videos are blowing up, I do my best to stay on top of it because I want to answer your questions. Very often I do have to put the phone away because I log like 2 hours of my personal time, and I'm all about volunteering, but at some point when my kid says, "Dad, put it away. Be a dad," then I got to listen. And I have been reminded that sometimes it's inappropriate, like by my kids who want to play with me. So yeah, but I do my best. And so yeah, we are paid. This is part of our duties. This is part of educating and engagement. At this moment, there are multiple platforms with many people watching, and like just the big number, TikTok, 215. We'll usually see about 15,000 people, 10 to 25,000. 25,000 like the highest, 26,000 highest and alive. But this is getting to the most people. It's awesome. I'll be at Honda Indy, and I doubt I will speak to as many people who are in the room right now over the entire weekend. But we do it because it's a different audience, different people. It's engaging. We'll be promoting the show and what we do on TikTok while we're there. I have to make a note of that. Promote show while there. We're actually going to go live from there, but it's totally different. This is a very cool tool, and we're making this available because we're recording these. You can go on YouTube and watch all of the previous episodes. So it's a resource that will live forever, and yeah, I hope you get some value out of it. Why can cops not signal, but we have to? Well, cops should signal as well. Will they absolutely get ticketed by themselves? Maybe there's a failure. Maybe they don't realize. Maybe they are. I have actually called dispatch while going to work to say, hey, tell car 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to turn their headlights on. Things happen. But should they be signaling? Yeah, they should signal their intention just like everybody else. What's the law driving on highway when all cars are doing 120 in a 100 zone? Well, all cars doing 120 in a 100 zone need to slow the heck down because the speed limit is 90 on Toronto highways and 100 on most other highways, 110 in some areas, but they're all speeding. So you need to do the speed limit if you want to avoid getting a ticket. Is there an HDA section that is addressing driving in the right lane except for passing in the left? So there are signs. There's no specific law that states thou shalt not drive in the right lane except for passing in the left, or how you worded it. The answer is that there are signs on certain highways and roads that say stay right except for passing. That would be an enforceable law because a sign is enforceable. There's a rule of thumb. There is a courtesy that you say unless you're passing, you stay to the right. But again, if there's no sign, it's not enforceable. Now, there's something called unnecessary slow driving. And if you're creating a situation where you're impeding traffic by driving below the speed limit significantly enough that it's unsafe or, again, impeding traffic. Now, when I say impeding traffic, if some bozo wants to do 130 and the speed limit is 100 and you make them slow down, I think that is a public service. But if you're driving 40 in an 80 or 40 in 100 zone and you're truly causing an issue, that's a ticket. That's unnecessary slow driving. If your vehicle is safe for the road and it's been certified and it just doesn't go over 80, there are cars that do old classics. You can get a Model T that's not going to do 100 kilometers an hour. Is it safe to drive on the road? I don't think there's anything restricting it from going on the highway. They'd stay to the right because that's the right thing to do. See, right thing to do, stay on the right. I hope that answers your questions. I've gone off script. There's no script in this. There's no script here. All right, but yeah, I hope that helps. So do people who ride bikes in traffic, do they need to be able to go the speed limit? We covered this. I think we covered this.
Yeah, I think that was the question that I saw. Yeah, same guy.
Same guy?
Or
Okay.
girl, whoever.
So we have covered it. But the deal is you can be on the road, stay to the right. Same deal. Does TPS have a ride-along program? It's a case-by-case situation. If you're a journalist, if you're a student, if you're looking to become a member of law enforcement, there are times when we will take you. I don't know if that has come back since pandemic has sort of lessened. During, obviously, when our stations were closed, there was none of that happening. And I don't know if it's happened since. But certainly, if you are interested, talk to recruiting and see what you can do. You'd be in a situation where you'd be riding with a sergeant. You can't go to calls. It's very wide angle lens. We're not giving you a gun and a badge and saying back me up. What do we have here? You got one?
No, just the one from earlier. So I don't even know if the person's still in the chat. Someone was asking if is it legal to park on your lawn? And in Toronto, I actually had to look that up. Home buyers should be aware that without permits, front yard parking is generally illegal in Toronto, except in about 10% of the former wards. So in downtown specifically, I see this a lot. So it's very rare that people have a driveway in downtown, and people who do have driveways, they have like almost a little plaque that is on their front yard. And I guess that's from way back in the day where it tells you that yes, you are allowed
Boulevard parking.
Yeah, it's a boulevard parking. Even though it's a driveway. Yeah, it's like a permit essentially. But yeah, you can't park on your front lawn unless you have one of those.
Interesting. I actually want to pave everything. I appreciate green spaces, but I hate mowing things. So I would just pave everything because I was looking at property, just having fantasy land. I was looking at Florida properties, and a friend of mine just bought a house in Florida, and I was looking at all the different models in the community he bought it, and I'm like, this one has zero green. Like you go onto the park beside it that's manicured because it's a closed gated community, but hit that model has absolutely no grass except some astroturf. So there's zero maintenance. I love it. That sounds so good. I don't need to own a lawnmower if I move there. I'm not moving there. Maybe when I retire. This is not a traffic question. Am I allowed to wear a cadet uniform in public? If you're a cadet doing cadet stuff, I imagine you are. I do not know the rules of the military, but I do know it's against the law to wear a Canadian Armed Forces uniform if you are not Canadian Armed Forces. I don't know if that covers cadets. I just don't know. But it is an interesting conversation.
I used to be a cadet.
Were you really?
And I used to take the bus downtown. Well, this one I lived.
That's kind of public, isn't it?
I lived in Hamilton, yeah, because I was going to like a training night, and I would go in my uniform. Yeah, it was a little embarrassing, but hey, whatever.
Why was it embarrassing? You were doing an amazing thing.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome. And
it was a great program.
And it's still around, right?
Oh yeah, and it's free.
Free programs. I
Yeah.
like free stuff that are programs that help teach kids to do stuff. Because I know that you can fly as a cadet, like glider programs,
Yep.
shoot guns. And
I did all that stuff.
That's amazing. I really think that's awesome stuff. I'm all about volunteering, and volunteering or programs like this where you're actually getting a benefit, I think is stellar. All right. What is this? Why do police officers turn on their police lights on what? Why do police officers turn on their police lights on me?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't understand. I don't
Maybe because
understand.
we're trying to pull you over and communicate by way of lights and sirens that we want you to pull over. I think that's what it is. What about brake checking? A trucker or any vehicle for that matter. But brake checking means you're intentionally slamming on the brakes for no other reason than to cause problems. I could see criminal charges of mischief at very least on that. So yeah, brake checking not illegal. And if you cause a collision, you're going to eat it. And hopefully, everyone's got a dash camera so they have tons of evidence against you, because there's no reason to brake check. That is absolutely insane. What do we have here? We have Warden and Enterprises. Oh, you got it. Okay. I'm just catching up on stuff on YouTube and Twitch and whatnot. Oh, William P. O'Connor says, why do police officers retire without a physical, nutritional, mental wellness plan, long-term care, life insurance plan to age 120? I don't know. Oh, you're in Tampa. I don't know how things are there. An illness to death. Okay. So in Ontario, and I can only speak to what I know, when we retire, we do have health we have access to mental health. We do have access to, we have a pension, we have, and some coverage. And I don't know the details because I'm not nearly close enough to retirement to have studied that as a potential, something I have to switch to. Do you know? Because you're so much farther away from retirement. Do you have any information or knowledge about how we retire? Retirement's just like I'm looking at a decade away.
Because I still have many a years until I retire. So.
Yeah, you know what? I believe that there is a tremendous amount of support for our retirees. We have an association for part of our association continues. You're a lifetime member when you retire, and I do believe they're still fighting for the rights of retirees going into the future. But I don't know enough. But I could connect you with people to talk to about how we do things here, and maybe if you are a law enforcement officer elsewhere, you could talk to how it's done where you are, and maybe they can help you out. Why is a bike helmet not good if you have fallen and the helmet got hit? Can you ride with a snowboard helmet in the meanwhile? Okay, so here's little known facts about helmets. Helmets generally use foam, to like a styrofoam material, dense styrofoam, to absorb the impact. That impact is capable, that foam is capable of one major impact. Listen, if you tap it on it's not going to break. But two things happen. In approximately 5 years, it hardens, it becomes brittle, and it does not have the same absorption ability as that new moist foam. I say moist because I don't really know. It dries, it ages, it becomes brittle. So I'm assuming the opposing description would be moist. It's probably inaccurate, but in the additional or the original, that's that. 5 years, it's brittle. It's not safe. Buy a new one. When you have if you drop it, it could crack. It could become compromised and not provide the same level of protection. Listen, bumpers in a car or an automobile of any kind that has foam bumpers to use, those also get damaged after one collision. Mind you, I've never thought about this. I wonder if those fail after 5 years, if they too become brittle and should be replaced. Can you imagine replacing your bumpers every 5 years like a helmet? I don't think that's the case, but definitely when it comes to when it comes to helmets, it's a serious thing. That's the one thing you spend money on. Don't buy the cheap brand that says, skid lid, and you got a sticker on the back that says DOP, but they erased part of it so it looks like DOT. There's a lot of garbage you can put on your head. And I've ridden a motorcycle without a helmet. I got into a state that said no. I knew that, I think it was Ohio, no helmet laws. I got off the highway, took off my helmet, strapped it to the back of my motorcycle, rode exactly one exit, and said, this feels so weird. Make it stop. I got off the next, put it back on. That was it. I was done. Can you drive without rear view mirror or side mirrors? In Ontario, you're required to have one clear view to the rear. So if that is by way of one mirror or three, you're covered. Like, as long as you have one, you're covered. Now, Jeep drivers, this is the big question. I think I talked about this today. I don't know if it was a comment in one of the videos I was talking or responding to somebody or where. Maybe it was in the live? I don't think so. Okay, the deal is if you have a Jeep, most Jeeps, when you take the doors off, the mirrors come off with it, and you are stuck with one mirror in the rear view attached to your windshield with a view to the rear. That one is legal. One mirror, legal. I used to have a Jeep. I got mirror relocation kit given to me, and I took the mirrors off the door and I put them on it was basically they bolted to the windshield hinge. Now, if you look at something like the Bronco, they were really, really smart with the design because they put the mirrors on the body, and now the doors don't cover the mirrors, so when you take the doors off, you still have mirrors. So I hope that answers your question. We're moving on. As soon as I clear that from the screen. And I say moving on, but I realize it's 6 minutes after 11 and I have to make a phone call in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to see if there's anything stellar. I think something came in off of... a couple of people... is this... Hang on. Follow-up question from earlier. Are police officers exempt from handheld devices while driving your personal vehicles or just while on duty? Can you guys do group pullovers for people going over the speed limit, i.e. 2 cops, 10 cars? Generally speaking, we try and stop 1 car at a time. That is what we are supposed to do, but we have stopped more than one. It depends on the situation and what's happening. That's the thing. When it comes to larger 10 vehicles, we're probably not pulling someone over for the same. It's probably something more serious. But yeah. I mean, we have the authority to stop the cars. Our policies suggest that we want to have 1-to-1, but that's different. Legally, can we stop you? Sure. When it comes to the other question about in personal cars versus police cars, if you look at the HTA, it specifically talks about the police cars. Now, when you're talking about the fact that we are police officers 24/7, I'd have to reread it to see how the wording is. My understanding is that if you're conducting police business, if you're acting in the capacity as a police officer, you're covered. But it might be specifically worded to be vehicle only. At the end of the day, if you are driving, you should not be using your handheld communication device unless it's for police purposes and lawfully, like you need to do it. Even if you're legally allowed to and you're just doing it to order pizza, I think that's wrong. You should only be using it if it's for police purposes. That's it. So hopefully that answers your question. I will respond also on the other business of volley when we're finished here, which is going to be now because I've got to go. I got to go finish up setting up the Honda Indy booth, prepare for Saskatchewan because months from now I'm traveling to Saskatchewan to talk about traffic safety and social media stuff. But planning starts early, so that's a thing. What else is going on here? I think. Wait. Okay, one last thing. Can I add a film to my brake lights to make them hot pink? Well, hot pink is not an approved color. Red is, unless you can say hot pink is red. But adding anything to your rear taillights would potentially make them illegal. They have to be discernible at 150 meters. And I wouldn't mess with them. Anything you do to your car to make it less safe is potentially a bad idea. And again, colors. Pink is not one of the colors. Red is. I think hot pink, although could be confused, depends. I wouldn't mess with your taillights. Mess with other things. Don't mess with your taillights. All right. With that, we start this little music rollout, and I will then do a countdown timer. It's been a slice. I had fun today. We will not be back until, well, at least not on a regular Ask a Traffic Cop. We won't be back until Monday. Monday, I think, is a safe bet. We're back on Monday. Over the weekend, I will do as much content creation as I can from the Honda Indy. We will go live randomly, sporadically, whenever. If you can catch it, great. If you can't, I'm sorry. But we will be jumping in. We'll have a bunch of friends from motorsports coming in. They're going to talk to us. I have people from, I won't ruin the surprises. We're going to create cool content, and we'll bring you along for the ride. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Aaron, any wise words?
Have a good rest of your day, and I will be back on the 25th because I am off all next week.
Vacacion.
Yes.
Very nice. And anything going on with parking in relation to the Honda Indy this weekend?
There is enforcement all around the surrounding areas. So if you see an emergency no parking sign, don't park there or you will get tagged and towed and relocated.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. A lot of road closures, a lot of things happening because of the Honda Indy. It's going to be a busy place downtown. So if you're coming down here, make sure you're doing everything legally. If you're going to drive sober and be safe. But we will see you on Monday and throughout the weekend because I'm not getting any days off.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Trafficcop.ca.
2, 1,
Trafficcop.ca.
0.
And we're shuttering it down there. And we're shutting it down here. Okay, and we're shutting it down here. It's been a slice, folks. We'll talk to you soon. Tinto Toes, you got the message. Shalom to you too.